I think, look, everyone starts with a different skill.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as a person, like, there's, like, no one's born to be great at sales. So you said that at the start. I honestly, like, fucking sucked at sales. I had no idea when I started.
It's a superpower, though, in my eyes.
100%.
It allows you to fixate on the things you actually enjoy, which is, for myself at least, is business. If I was medicated for ADHD, wouldn't have the business I have now.
If we simplify life, you've got, you know, your health, you've got relationships, you've got business and kind of wealth creation.
Finance, yeah.
Right? Now, one might be more important. So it's like, what arteries cut?
Yeah.
What's the thing that we want to, like, double down on? I think one thing is we've got a lot of us that are driven have got crazy expectation. It's the thing I've had to work on unfucking, but it keeps coming back over and over and over again, right? The thing is, it's a good question.
I feel nauseous, believe me. Never had a lot of shit come easy. Had to work hard, struggle just to be me. Had to rise up just so they could see me. Did what I had to do just to feed me. And what was left over I put towards my dreaming. But the only thing in life that has meaning are the things you gotta work for, believe me. Take into your hands a plan, your own hands can land your own brand. And damn, I feel like no one takes accountability. They want the credibility convincingly.
Welcome back to the pod, everyone. This is back to Melbourne. First podcast back in Melbourne from the Dubai trip. I'll give a recap on that on a future episode. But we're joined here today by Mark Luxon. Welcome to the show, mate. Thank you for coming. Do you want to give everyone a bit of an intro as to who you are and what you do?
Yeah, sure, Reese. Yeah, so I think we met way back in 2015, I reckon it was. Look, I run a business called Coaches Collective. Been in the same industry as you for a long time. God, 2007 officially. But I did my certs in 2001.
Wow.
So yeah, been around a while, bit of a fossil in the industry.
Mate, for people to be in the industry that long these days just doesn't happen.
No, it's not common, but it's interesting every time I chat to someone who is in this industry this long, and I get very surprised. You know, like, I think you'd be further ahead after 20 years typically than where most people are. Yeah,
definitely. I can completely attest to that. I think what's the average time frame of a PT now? It's like 2 years.
I think it depends, but I think the stats are if you're might be outdated, but around 18 months in a big box gym, it's about 3 months if you're outside that. Yeah, what I've been told. Unsurprising.
Mate, I think a bit more of an in-depth jump into who you are is necessary. So I met Mark, as you just mentioned, I met you back in 2015. You were running an educational program back then, and really diving back into my first memories of you were, I was actually just saying this to Pat off camera. I was like, I didn't really know what you did, but I knew you did it good, and I knew you could sell it well. And other than your calves were massive, my biggest memory was my biggest memory was that you could sit there and explain through process in marketing and sales in a very simple way. Although that you were not necessarily running a marketing and sales business experience, and it was more of a service-based process. I can look back now and go, well, there was large skill set there. Where did that all come from for you?
Okay, I'll do it. I don't want to do this like a resume, so I'll keep it quick. Mate,
Too long, didn't read.
Yeah, look, I guess my old man was always in business. So, mate, from a kid, he owned restaurants. So he was in printing, but then when he had restaurants, mate, I learned staff managing at like 15. So I think being a people person, learning how to balance tills, that real world experience was amazing. Mate, I went to a good school where it was all about business. Awesome. So for me, I think. I went to a good school. I thought, I don't know what the fuck I want to do at 18. So I went and did a commerce degree because I thought I want to be a business person. It's very funny how this whole story comes full circle.
Yeah, definitely.
So I studied commerce and mate, in a uni degree, you do like your first 8 units and then you kind of start to head down a direction. Funny that I chose marketing and financial planning. So pretty much became a financial planner. When I was 18, I was studying full-time at uni, but then I thought, well, want to get a job in the finance industry, see what it's like. So I pretty much at 18 had a full-time job and did full-time uni. So, you know, all you guys saying you can't fucking make
time.
an income and bullshit, right?
I agree.
But yeah, so pretty much long story short, I think I did that because I want to make my old man proud. Mm-hmm. So I went into financial planning. I was the youngest financial planner at a big firm in Collins Street because I thought that was important. Mm-hmm. At 23, I was managing. So it's all about investments as a financial planner. Funny, I married one.
Yep.
As you know, Laura, she's very switched on. She's in the high net worth space. Like all her clients are worth 5 mil plus. Mm-hmm. She's got families that are worth, 200 million.
Yeah, wow.
It was, I got into that industry, but my old man, I was studying my Cert 4 in that time as well, because I think I remember you knowing that I've had a lot of injuries playing footy.
Just a couple.
Just a few. So ankle, broke my leg, 2 ACLs, a shoulder, and I was just studying because I was interested. Why the fuck am I breaking?
Yeah.
Why does my body break so fucking easy? And I don't do hamstrings or I don't do soft tissue. I tear things.
You go hard.
Yeah. So I was fascinated by it. I got in. I was talking about this the other day on a post, but like, I think depending on how most of us either get in the industry because we want to bodybuild, right? So those people tend to like love that, and then that's where they go, right? In body comp transformations. For me, it was rehab. Mm-hmm. So I did my Cert 4. I studied Paul Check back when he was massive in 2001.
Yep.
Did a fair few of his and that was mind blowing. Like it's quite funny. I think everyone poo pooed that because Poliquin people would poo poo Check, and that was the times we were in.
War,
yeah. So going down that route of learning kind of rehab and all this kind of stuff, I did it more from an interest point of view, and it took till 2007 where I just had an opportunity. My old man had a heart attack. I helped him get out of a restaurant. And then, so I stepped out of my financial planning job, and then a lady said, "Hey, why don't you become a PT?" In Cairns, of all places. That's where he had his restaurant.
Yeah, wow.
So I started there. I fucking loved it. It didn't even feel like work. And mate, like you've probably experienced with me, like I've just, I care about, I enjoy connecting with people.
Yeah.
So mate, I think I was earning about $1,500 a week within 3 months.
Yep.
And pretty much in any business I've ever been in, I was able to make, if I reestablished myself, like to make 2K in the first 3 months, I never found hard.
Oh, I'm so fucking glad you said that, because I feel like so many people in our industry of the mentoring space, they're always shooting for the make your first 6-figure year. And it's like, that's cool, tick that off. It's a good goal, but it's not business. And I say this quite often, it's like, you can just work your way to 6 figures. You can work your way to $1 million, right? You can hustle your way there quite easily. It's just dependent on time. If you can provide it the time and the effort, it will go there. And most people they hire their first mentor to make their first 6 figures, realistically, just to be told what they already know, but just to do it. But like, just go do the fucking thing. And if you're able to build up to that level of cash flow within your first 3 months, why is it taking so many people so long to do it? Why do you think that is?
I think, look, everyone starts with a different skill.
Yeah.
Right? Like, as a person, like, there's like, no one's born to be great at sales. So you said that at the start. I honestly like fucking sucked at sales. I had no idea when I started.
Yep.
I just cared about people, and I looked at different things, and I remember buying short courses and different things. I was always interested in learning how I do things better.
Yep.
Right. And then I realized in areas that I sucked. So I guess my experience was obviously different. So the lady, when I started my first job, said, "Look, I think you'd be great." She did corporate speaking. So I came in, she's like, "You would really relate to people because you could talk about fitness and you could talk about the corporate world."
Yeah.
So naturally for me, I didn't ever understand things like niche, but I understood who I connected with.
Yeah, okay.
Right, so corporates. So that kind of became my thing. So look, when I came back, I actually did my ACL playing football up in Cairns. I was not having my knee done by someone up there. So I came down to Julian Fellow, who's one of the best.
Yep.
And then from then I realized, oh, fuck, when I get injured, I can't make an income. So I sat at my mum's couch going, fuck, what am I going to do? My mate Nick Russian owned Eve at the time.
Yep.
So I helped him set that up, which was a fucking amazing job for like a year.
Yeah.
Like being single, 23, and
I'm sure
the best nightclub. It was awesome. And then I decided, I actually got offered to buy into a franchise. So I actually kind of did things so backwards, but I actually became part of a PT studio franchise.
Yep.
That got busy very quick. I had 2 trainers underneath us. We lost them in about a week. Yep. And I ended up running 500 sessions on my own for about 8 weeks
Jesus.
in a semi-private model. I was about 110 hours a week of work. Burnt myself out. Actually sold that because I was like, fuck this, I actually don't want it. I think I took on way too much too early. So went back to a fitness first, did it in reverse, and just went, you know what, I'm going to build a semi-private model and the stuff that I was teaching you at the time.
Yep.
Right? So went back to corporate. Where are all the corporates? This is how I thought. Where are all the corporates? Mate, you know where they are. Where
City.
are they? They're in the city.
Yep.
Right near Collins Street. Where's the best part of Collins Street? It's the Paris end.
Yep.
Right? QV was there and it was a no-brainer. So I set up and yeah, like I got myself busy there, and then I kind of, through my network, I ended up, and I was saying to you off air, one of the guys that now has been my mentor for 15 years, he was an Olympic sports psych, guy called Gavin Freeman, absolute superstar. He's been my mentor, I said, for a long time. And we got into the corporate space. We were working with CEOs of multinational companies.
Yep.
So we ended up doing corporate wellness. So I was running year-long contracts with Coles, with Lend-Lease, with a whole bunch. It was awesome. I went from it was never about the money. Mate, it was like, I love speaking in front of people. So mate, then I was making, $4,000 in my semi-private business. And then I ended up mentoring 25 trainers in the city. And I was helping them build their business. And naturally, because I was doing speaking, I couldn't literally look after everyone that was coming to us. But I had the speaking gig where I was making $3,500 for 2 hours. And
Good leverage.
I'm like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And we had 5 of those contracts and sometimes 2 talks a week.
Yeah.
And I was 50-50 with Gavin. It was awesome. And then I kind of fell into this mentoring space where I met you.
Yep.
So I had this opportunity. I loved FMA, which was obviously a business that I ended up buying into. So I kind of fell into RTO courses.
Yep.
But mate, there's a whole story that you probably don't even know about that.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have been a whole complex clusterfuck of shit to do.
We never got paid about $2.5 million that we were owed.
Yeah.
By the RTO. So we did all that work and never got paid.
Not surprised. The moving parts with RTOs I've looked into it as well. It's fucked.
I think the lesson from that is that when it's usually easy and it's too good to be true,
yep,
it is.
Yep. Yeah, I think if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. Hey?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's there's a lot of branches that we can go off there, man. I think that just from an experience process that to the listeners at home, that you've got someone that's gone through the in-person gym, who built a business in personal training, who's gone down the road of speaking, who's gone down the road of semi-private into an online model, actually teaching from experience, that you've done this stuff. Where do you feel like was the biggest catapulting moment for you to actually take this business to be a business that you had to be less hands-on in?
It's a good question. I love psychology.
Same.
And I remember a time when I put up a post the other day which was talking about usually your story is not your own. And I remember sitting with my dad, and it was in the middle of COVID because we were talking about stuff off air.
Yep.
And I was so funnily enough, we'd actually packed up to move to Noosa.
Yep.
And then the week of the lockdowns, which we didn't know were going to come, my grandmother, my wife's grandmother died, and we hung around and we ended up not moving. So we ended up kind of getting stuck in Melbourne. But luckily we'd rented our house out, but we had a beach house that we couldn't rent out, and it was costing us money as a mortgage. So we thought, we'll fucking move down there.
Yeah.
And I was speaking to my old man about, which by the way is another thing. My first property I ever bought was something that could make cash flow, which was a very smart move. It was the opposite of what everyone did in GFC. Everyone sold their beach houses. I bought one and thought, this is a fucking no-brainer, right? Anyway, chatting to my dad and saying, Dad, he's got this crazy work ethic. So my old man's he's coming up 70. And I'm like, Dad, where does this never being enough story come from? Because this all relates to crazy work ethic, always trying to be the lone wolf.
Yeah.
Right?
It's a story I think many of us know too well.
Yeah. And I was just talking to my dad now. It was really interesting. And it was the first time I think he's ever told me the fucking truth about him. Right? And a deep convo. Right, because my old man's very just old
stoic.
School. Yeah, old school.
Same as my dad.
Yeah. So I'm so my grandfather was a freak athlete. My dad's the shorter, so unfortunately, mate, I play footy. I'm 5'11".
Yep.
My grandpa's 6'6".
Okay, fuck.
And all my uncles are 6'3", 6'4". And my grandfather he was a great footballer. So at 14, he was 6'4", and he was a cyclist. And he actually was the youngest kid ever to win the Melbourne to Warrnambool pro cycling ride at 17. So, and then somewhere along the way, his coach died on the road in front of him, and he just stopped playing sport.
Well,
And then he pretty much went straight into business. And it was always about chasing money. Like my old man grew up where they had 30 odd houses before he was 18.
wow.
And he would just tell his family, like, we've sold the house, we're moving to Geelong from like Melbourne. Or they'd go to Kilmore, or they go wherever the opportunity was. He would uproot 6 kids and move house.
Yeah, wow.
So in my grandfather's eyes, when my dad did well at anything, right, whether it was business, whether it was sport, my dad was also, you see my cars, it's all genetics, right? My dad's got great, amazing calves, so do all my uncles.
Yeah.
But he was like a national sprinter, and it didn't matter if unless my grandfather went, like, unless it was really good, it was like, well done.
Yeah, do better.
Yeah, but otherwise, there was no validation. So I'm like, isn't this interesting? Because my whole life, right, like for so long, and I talked about uni, I was just trying to make my dad proud, or I just want him to say, I love you.
Yeah.
But he didn't know how to give what he couldn't give.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. So this is where it came from. This whole, if it's answering the question around, you know, the work ethic, the drive, I saw this in him, and this is why when I spent time with psychologists, I was like, this is not my fucking story. And from a young age, I never felt like I was enough. So as you know, and I think this is the thing, it's everything needs to be in balance. It can be an amazing driver, but it can also push you to do dumb shit. Yeah. Take risks, spend lots of money, constantly reinvest in fucking skill set courses.
Yeah, been there, done that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's an interesting topic. Do you think from a skill set perspective, do you think from a coach, all the coaches trying to grow, do you think it's better to invest in skill set or business?
You can't have one without the other.
Where do you feel like people put too much effort, and where do you feel like people should be putting more?
One of my favorite sayings by my father-in-law is, you can't make strawberry jam out of shit.
Fucking oath. Yeah.
So we're in a service-based business. You have to have a good skill set.
Yeah, I agree.
And yes, Cert 4 is like rubbish.
Yep.
You need to have a good skill set. So, but I think it's one of those things like, yes, like mate, I'll ask you, what do you see as the number one determinant of a high value skill set? What are the key skills that you want to be good at?
Well, that's where I sit there and go, like, where's the line? Because a lot of people that I speak to, they sit there and they go years, 6, 7, 8. For example, someone that I met back in the FMA days, right, as a student, right, I now mentor, right, as a business owner, right. That connection was made way back 2015, and this individual is still doing upskilling courses quarterly, like, and a large amount of them.
Yep.
Business hasn't grown past 200 grand ever. Right. So it's like, when is enough, especially for the market you deal with? If you're dealing with high-end athletes that require you to learn the most intricate details of hormonal pathways, sure. But if you're still dealing with just Gen Pop that want to put on a little bit of muscle, grow and drop a bit of fat, what you knew 3 years ago is probably going to be enough. All you really need to do is touch up every year on the new stuff coming through. So to answer your question, I think like the skill sets you need to invest in is, once you have a nominal amount of acumen and skill set with where your service is and can service the market you currently have, unless you're trying to upscale the market, if you can service the market you have, stay there and invest into sales, marketing, and just business strategy.
I agree. I mean, everything that goes into program design, right? If I keep it simple, what goes into program design? And it depends. Like, if you want to be like I said, what got you in the industry? If you love hypertrophy, you know, you want to learn from your Luke Lehmans and your, you know, these people who are incredible at this, you know, space.
Yep.
For sure, like, you need skill set, right? But I agree, like, mate, I just know that for me personally, and mate, you know, I've coached hundreds of PTs. And I see the exact same thing, and they go and spend 50 grand a year sometimes on courses, and they put their fucking price up by $5 an hour.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, there's no ROI.
Perfect example, man. The individual I was just speaking about, like, I think we backdated the last 2 years, spent like over 160 grand on education, and is still charging $85 a week for online coaching. Like, dude,
how can you? So. Yeah, like there is a point, I think, again, it's just that, what's the driver behind it? And mate, I think it's, the analogy I would use is, what's a guy like that focused on, right? On who is he trying to become? Like, who are you measuring yourself against? And this is what they mostly do, right? They compare themselves against a Reese Livingston, right? Like, he's a fucking 10. So they go, you know, what am I out of 10? Oh, I'm a fucking 6.
Yeah, and the only pathway there is to get smarter at these things that they already know, or these avenues that they already are comfortable in. It's like, yeah, I could coach well, and I coached a lot of people, but my skill set was not, especially in the later years of coaching, was not coaching. It was growing a business. Yeah. That's where I put my money. That's where I put my time. And it's the same thing. Like you use the example of like Luke Lehman. It's like the standard is up here. And if you want to educate coaches and that is your market, great. But if you spend 160 grand just to teach Sally how to lose fat, like, no, don't need it.
Yeah. You've got more than enough. And I think the point is, if you thought of it like a pyramid, all right, there's the 10 up here. What's your client out of 10?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Where do they start? They're a 0.
Yep.
You're a 6. Why not fucking look down and, focus on them? And the thing for me is like, look, the only thing I would say around skill set is, for me, like personally, I reckon about once every 6 months, I'm like, I want to do something.
Yep.
Because I love learning. Now I'm constantly learning. Like, dude, my highest value is learning and growth. Likewise. So when I focus on something though, this is, I think, the biggest lesson if I want to answer your question, the biggest lesson I've learned, how do I take what I've learned, apply that, and actually build something out?
Yeah, have a shortened action time frame.
Yeah, but what's the one thing you're building out right now? If you're building out, for example, modules around hormones, go deep into hormones, work out what you know, maybe do a course on that, but utilize that, build that out into something that is a tool, which is a module, which is part of a membership site. It's something that's scaled that we can teach all your clients. Use it and just focus on one thing and learn that and go deep into that. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think this is where so many people waste so much time trying to get the product perfect and have everything ticked off. Where it's like they're trying to go wide, not deep. It's just like go the fucking hormone route and get it right.
Yeah,
and do it fast, do it hard, and go there, and then move on to the next, rather than spread your resources and learn every course.
100%.
Yeah, man, I fucking agree. With yourself into this, like breaking into this space where you're largely dealing with coaches trying to grow and scale, like what's your general market now? Where are they kind of coming in at?
We've got a mix, but we've got, the way I kind of structured things is I moved away from, like, mate, we've done the whole 90-day intake, high ticket course stuff. I just found that for me, and mate, as you know, with FMA, like back in the past, I was doing year-long courses because we believe that it fucking takes time to learn a skill set.
Yep.
Which I still genuinely believe.
I still think the way that you ran that, with the way that you could pay for the course and come to the same course and relearn the same information, is one of the most hyper valuable things that I even do now within the way we run the company. It's like any seminar that clients or that mentoring clients come to, they can come to preceding seminars that are the same event.
Yes.
For the same ticket cost.
Yeah. So yeah, agree. I love it. And I said, like, this is look. It was actually, that's very interesting as well. Like that's the end game of selling something very leveraged, right? So when you build up, I typically say you start one-on-one, you get really good at that, and keep your online, say, offer simple. But the next thing is how you kind of leverage that and build out a lot more system, right? And then it can be something that is scalable. You can bring people into a group model or something like an 8, 12 week, 90-day thing, and it can lead to other things or something like that. Yep. Or it can be very highly leveraged, low ticket, but at that stage, you've got a big audience and all that makes sense.
Yes.
With what I wanted to do is for me personally, when I ran that model of like 90-day intakes, people would start getting results about like week 8 and they're kicking ass. And then they have this like, again, maybe at the 12-week mark, they're like, like I'm going really well, but then they think they can do it on their own. And let's be honest, they're fucking early days when it comes to marketing.
Yep.
And I just went, you know what? This is not the connection I want to have with people. So actually what drives me more than anything, dude, is like, it's connecting with people. Like I want a fucking close connection. I want to be able to coach people.
Yep.
Just like a PT.
The big difference.
Yeah. So there's 3 tiers. There's a highly scalable thing. There's like something in between, which is our mid tier, which is, again, they get a little bit of one-on-one in a hot seat. And then we've got like done for you at a high level. But I wanted to get away from, like, people have this mentality of they get in a course and they consume. And I'm fucking anti that. Like, dude, I want you to take your shit deep. I want you to think deep. I want you to be able to implement. So when you learn and you go straight away and implement. So if this ties everything we've said together, I want people that fucking go away and implement shit. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to coach you because I look at your strengths. I look at your weaknesses. I look at where you need to grow, just like my best football coach.
Yep. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I look at this whole mentoring game very similarly. I don't do... Everything's a bespoke process. I don't have like a course framework. I just go like, cool, let me see your business. Like, show me the kimono, open it up, and let me have a look what's behind there. and we will figure it out, right? So let's look at pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses.
Yeah.
Where's your leverage? Where don't you have it? What's your pricing strategy? All of that. And I essentially do what you just said there. It's like we go implement time, go do the shit, then come back.
Yep.
Right. And just try and reduce that action cycle as fast as possible. So with those people coming into your I guess your network and your ecosystem, what do you feel like the biggest pain point for the majority is? Like, where is their struggle in business?
Okay, I think of it like pathways. So to answer your question that answers the previous question, sorry, because I'm ADHD, so keep me on track and we'll be good. So pathway one, get fucking good one-on-one.
Yep.
Get to a point where you've got to build experience, time in the fucking trenches.
I agree.
Get good in person.
Yep.
Right? So if you're at and again, meet your basic needs. What are your basic needs? It's usually around $800 to $1,200 a week, unless obviously you've got more expenses, but get really good at that. Right. And then the next step is, and obviously, yes, it's skill set and it's it's understanding marketing, and you still need to understand that you need building an online presence and building an audience this day. Like, mate, we started Coaches Collective 18 months ago. I don't have a website. And I say something like, what? Yeah, I don't have a website because content and offers creates conversations, which creates sales. And then I spend all my time building out. So I think it is like there's 3 levels to business. You've got growth, which you should always focus on. Right? It's marketing, it's content. You've got future growth, which is systems. Now, at the start, let's be honest, you just need to train people, understand how to apply the skill set, get people results. Pathway 2, now we're starting to look at how do we leverage your time, because as you know, they become time poor.
Yep.
Now we've got to look at leverageable models, right? So whether they want to do leveraged in person, and again, how many ways can you do it? High end, semi-private, but again, they don't understand what that means, or like small group, right? Or high level, and hopefully they got it right, one-on-one. And or online.
Yep.
But their online as well can complement their in-person.
Yeah, hybrid.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then online, this is the thing you got to understand to build online. It all comes back down to that audience. It comes down to understanding your market. And this is where because you gain all that experience one-on-one, and you've worked with lots of people, you know what's going on in their head, you know the conversations, but learning how to articulate that in a way, and this is why I'm all in on marketing, dude. Like, I'm all in. Like, even my business partner now, when he wasn't my business partner, I was investing more than half of what I earn in the marketing.
Yep.
Because now that's why, in 18 months, I've been able to build a business bigger than people that have been in business, like you said, that you're coaching for 20 years.
Yep.
Right? Because it comes down to, that's the highest level fucking skill set. Apart from having a skill set you fucking monetize. That's
it's the only thing that you can create like a truncated return on. Like, you can actually get like a complementing compounding growth through marketing. Like, media as a whole, not even whether it be paid acquisition or organic, it's the only thing that compounds, and it's the only thing that's there forever. Like, your time is only finite. It's only, you get 1 unit of input in, 1 unit of input out. Whereas at media as a whole, you can start to truncate that return massively. And that's where most people, they're not willing to put in the effort. They don't know how to get in front of a camera. They don't know how to pay any attention to their audience and figure out what their needs are, what their problems are, how to create solutions for all of them. And I think that's like across the board, whether it be first 6 figures, first 2 mil, first 5 mil, there's always points of growth there for in the media specific leverage.
100%.
A lot of opportunity there. Respectfully though, one thing I would disagree on is website.
Yep.
If you're in a position where you're currently already having sales conversations organically, would it not be, for how quick a website can be built these days and how cheap, would it not be just an added extra bonus for people to go through that client journey of go through, let's say they've first become aware of you, now they do some research on you, even if it's just a place for them to download your free shit?
Yep.
Would it not be advantageous?
Oh, absolutely. But what's most important?
Sales.
Right?
Cash flow.
Most important first. Like, so if you can be building a business and you're turning over $250,000, right? Firstly, like at 250K, you're living a good life.
Oh yeah.
Like, as you know, anything beyond that, honestly, mate, is cream.
Yeah, I agree.
It's team, it's leverage, it's getting people to do things for you. It's your guy coming in here and set up your podcast for you. Like, it's all of that, right? It gets you back time. Yeah. Right. So it's all a bonus. So yeah, like all I'm saying is, like, I've got in my schedule the time to build out a website for sure. Websites though are an art in itself.
I agree.
Right. And this is the thing, it's an opportunity cost.
Yeah.
Now, if you've got your content dialed in, if you're making super consistent sales, right? If someone that's doing your marketing, you can pay them to articulate the problems of your niche, get the copyright, get so that it also gets people to click on it and actually want to do work with you. People do a really shit job of websites.
Yeah.
Right? So yes, I've spent all the time, by the way, building out a membership site. So I use Mighty Networks.
Yeah.
We've got, a vault of trainings. That's where I spend probably outside of growth most of my time.
Yeah. So you're looking at this from a perspective of like either capital, tech, media, or really like the points of leverage. You've got like you can invest capital, you can like develop your media or your tech.
Yep.
Right. Like you're going down the road of just like media rather than tech side of things. Yeah.
I'm trying to do the right things first. Because again, if in many ways, being 18 months into a new business, it's like I'm literally the living example of what I would do with PTs.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah?
Yep.
But website for sure. But the question I always ask is, okay, cool. So you just spent $6,000 on a website. How are you going to get traffic?
Yeah, well, this is the thing. If it's an opportunity cost, if I probably like the more prudent example in this is like if you're relying exclusively on organic traffic, you have to have someone to send them. If you're doing paid advertising, you're sending them to where you have your media, then that counteracts that tenfold. Right? But if I agree, sending traffic somewhere, you spent $6,000, now you got to spend another $6,000 in ad testing just to send them to a shit website, probably a waste of money.
I've got coaches that we work with, so that so as you know, content marketing, and we're here, and I'm sure this will get repurposed into content.
Absolutely.
Content marketing. I've got guys that have got 300,000 followers. Right now, this is the guys. Even if you've got fuck all, right? So right now, if you were to go on my Instagram, I got hacked. I started all over again with Instagram 5 months ago. Now we've gone from 0 to 1,050 people just on my Instagram. Right now, that wouldn't sound like a lot, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting 3,500, 4,000 views minimum on all my posts, right? I'm getting 25 to 30 leads a week. Now, everything's top of funnel content, but I repurpose and spend $3 behind about 5 to 7 posts.
Yep.
And I have a retargeting ad with an offer. Offer's well written. It's a 5-sentence offer that talks about what PTs are going through.
Yep.
And that brings in the people look at me and they go, I just resonate so much with what you're talking about. So it's not hard to be an authority. Once you learn your message, your marketing, you dial things in, right? And when you're making those sales, okay, the next thing is, do you know what? How do we create a sell by chat system and simplify and leverage your shit? And we've got membership site stuff. We can plug people straight in. Then websites all make sense. But even then, it can be a sales page website.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not talking, you don't need to go to the full build. You just be a landing page, direct acquisition.
100%.
Complete vertical.
And this is why, like, Matt, my business partner, when everything makes sense and when everything's dialed in, it all just makes sense.
Yeah, you can double down your efforts where you need to. Yep.
Do you mean? So the system, you just got to understand the steps in the system. And this, mate, I spoke to a guy yesterday and I'm like, dude, you're going to go down this route. And I get this. You've probably made up your mind. I'm just saying, when we have a chat in 3 to 6 months time and you're like, I just spent fucking $6,000, I got no clients from it, let's chat. Or do you want to fix this shit?
Yeah, you're either going to pay in time or cash.
Yeah, and this dude, and I just said to him, like, mate, with all love, I know I've just triggered the fuck out of you, so sit with it, because you're going to make this mistake, and I love you. I'd rather just have a hard convo with you and say, dude, this is where you're going, but you have a chance to course correct before you put all your resources into that basket.
Yep. Yeah, because even if you look at it from a potential of ad spend, like the ROI on shit ads, if you spent $6,000 there, you'd probably still make your money back. If you have a good system where, let's say, you've price strategied well, where you can upfront cost your cost of acquisition through marketing. If your first transaction offsets your cost, is sweet. If you have at least one referral come in from a client, you've paid for your fucking marketing.
Yep.
Right? Like, instead of spending the $6,000 on a thing that might not do shit, yeah, it makes sense.
Dude, I as you know, with FMA, we used to run lead ads.
Yep.
Right? So Facebook lead ads. And man, I just think back to how hard it was. Right? So when I was sitting with Matt and we were talking about it, I'm like, dude, I'm fucking sick of you getting on a call. And it's like, all the hard work needs to be done on a sales call.
Yeah.
Now, as you were saying, dude, like, I wouldn't say I was a natural at sales. Okay, I was a natural at connecting with people.
Yeah.
But in parts of the sales process, like years ago, 8, 10 years ago, felt gross, like most people. And then I went out and I've probably spent close to $750,000 on business coaching and agencies and etc.
Yep.
I've also had coaching from like sales coaches that are like brutal and not who I want to be. So I've had a lot of experience where you know what I'm like, mate. I genuinely connect with people. I care. I want to help them. And yeah, so building that skill, I guess that where I've come to now is that with all those lead ads, and it was such hard work, and we were spending $1,500 to $2,000 on ads a week. And we're making great money. And in fact, we dialed it up a lot more when it was going really well. When I say really well, when we were doing a big intake and we wanted to really blow things up. Yeah. But the thing is, like now, and especially with content marketing and with how you can position yourself and how you can come in and people are like, they already are warm to who you are. Right? The conversation's so easy.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? And you can do this as a PT and they all say, oh, I want more of the ideal clients I want to work with. Marketing, and this is where the big shift for me, right? It's about, I no longer want to chase people. I can't be fucked.
Yep.
Mate, I'm 41. I'm 40 this year, 41 December. I don't want to chase people. I want people to understand what I'm about. I want to get on a call and they already get it.
Yeah.
Right?
So you don't have to use the slimy tactics of sales. You can just go straight into the solution.
And mate, I stand so against all the bullshit in our industry that fucking go and DM 70 people a day. And mate, they're still getting sucked into this 6-figure. It's fucking hard work. Yeah. Marketing's hard work. Yeah. Were you good at English out of interest at school? No. Like it was my best subject.
I could write. I got after, when was I? 19. So a year out of school, I got diagnosed with dyslexia. So I can't spell for shit. I can write, but everything's chicken scratch. It doesn't make any sense. If you read it, in English, I spell it. Doesn't make sense.
Yep.
But if you got the gist of how I was trying to spell it, I can write well. I can tell stories really, really well, but can't write for shit. Can't spell.
Okay, so Reese, I love this, and I'm just going to reverse your podcast because I can't help it, right? So you know a bit about my story. Do you remember any of that?
Yeah. In what regard?
Okay, so when I was in prep, I was left-handed, and they did all these tests, and they said you should be right-handed.
Okay.
Now it's backwards because it's not even accurate now.
Yeah.
Right. So as a kid, I was like, I had to then unlearn and relearn, and then everything I couldn't see I had visual dyslexia, which is diagnosed now.
Yep.
I couldn't see letters and words. Mate, I failed prep. Right. So both of us have very similar stories around why we are the way we are.
Yep.
Right. So never feeling enough as a kid. And then having to esteem ourselves through learning, through fucking consuming. We had to go down these routes of what we've talked about today. Yeah. So similar to you and my psych, whether it's a diagnosis, I got diagnosed ADHD.
Same.
Which has been really, because I knew that.
Yeah.
Like I knew that.
It's a superpower though in my eyes.
100%.
It allows you to fixate on the things you actually enjoy, which is for myself at least is business. If I was medicated for ADHD, wouldn't have the business I have now.
Okay. So and this would be really interesting to talk about as well. So I've gone down the route of medicating. Didn't as a kid.
Yep.
Worked with a psych for the last 3 years, pretty much every second week on my shit.
Yep.
On stuff called schema therapy. By the way, if you ever want to learn more about that, guys, in psychology, schema therapy by far has been the most helpful modality I've ever learned because it's very structured. It helps you understand patterns.
Yep.
And then how we break those patterns. But long story short, for you, because we've got a similar story, right? You were able to find your medium. Like for me, I was actually really good when I had at 18 or VCE. I had a lady who was a mentor who taught me how to break down essays with Shakespeare. So I don't know, we had Shakespeare like Othello and those books. Yeah. And she's like, here's your 15 quotes. And based on the question, you can jumble these quotes. As long as you remember these, you can actually pull this all together into a structure. And then because I saw the structure and I'm so visual.
Same.
Right? I was like, I had it on the back of the toilet door. Mate, I knew before the question came out how I was going to write the fucking essay.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I was a good writer. And so
I had pattern recognition.
Yeah, but it was patterns.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned through like repetition. But you and I are very good auditory speakers. It's like when I speak to my clients, I send them voice notes.
Yeah, likewise.
I can't be fucked writing. It's why I hate admin. It's why I outsource all of that shit. So, mate, this is why you've made this your superpower. So is there any surprise that podcasts are your thing?
No, and that's the thing. Once we found this medium, like any resource we create, we try and also make it like auditory, visual, and somewhat kinesthetic. So there's like, go do the shit, right? And that's something that for me, like having those different modalities of learning every single time, the auditory version is the best for me.
How many PTs, like again, from a learning style, right, are visual kinesthetic?
Yeah. Oh, mate, so
All
many.
of them?
All of them, 80%, 90%.
Right, like I think that, and this is like, again, why we felt like a failure is for the most part, like PTs are fuck-ups in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're all coming from a position of lack.
Yeah.
I think everyone gets in the industry from a place of like wanting to be better. They're not enough.
Not many people aspired to PT.
No.
Right, but there's a lot of fucking smart people.
Yep.
Right, so they didn't make it in something.
Mm-hmm.
So then they've been able to build all these skills, and like they're like very overqualified in an industry which is not respected.
Yeah, it's still just a PT. That
Yeah.
word "just" still floats.
Yeah, it's why I move away from it, and I want to help coaches.
Yeah,
like because we are coaches.
Yep.
But yeah, it's teaching people how to learn,
mm-hmm.
and teaching it, like this is your clients, and naturally, like you've said that. So I guess for you, like you doubling down on this, and you said you loving business, right? Because I've seen you and I, and this is like part of the story, right? Is that we started out as coaches, and now we've come back to being like business guys in the fitness industry, right? So for you, how do you help people realize like their strengths, help realize how they fucking learn, right? How they actually find the best way to implement. Like, what are those things that you do?
I think for me, it's more so I do a cross population of two things. One is look at the subjective data. How do they feel in the circumstances versus the objective data? So we always do like 3-way forward projections as far as their cash flow, profits, etc. go, right? Okay, well, this is what we're aiming to hit based off the last 12 months growth. This is what we want to hit next month.
Yep.
And then we cross-reference to what we should have hit or what we aimed to what actually happened. Okay, well, now what's the subjective reasons as to why that did or did not happen? What strategies did we play out that month? What did we change? What metrics were we tracking? And now go repeat and just fucking do the things so we can have more points of, the more you track, the more you can actually start to figure out, points of wins. Like we can find wins.
I like doing your program design, but
Yeah.
just related to business.
Yeah, it's the exact same, man.
Yeah.
And second to that is like whenever I'm implementing anything new in a business, we go through a cross population of can and should, right? So little Venn diagram, can we do it and should we do it? The only things that matter are the things in between, right? Because should you go to custom develop your own app? Yeah, you should, but it's going to cost you about $1.2 million. So can you? Probably not for most people.
Yep.
Right? So don't sit there and worry about, but my service could be better if I had this thing. It's like, well, you can't fucking do it. Focus
Clients
on what
don't
can and
care.
should.
They don't care.
No.
Like it doesn't matter if it's Mighty Networks. It doesn't matter if it's Kahunas. It doesn't
matter.
fucking matter.
No.
It's what's in it, and it's the marketing,
And it's the person.
and it's the person. And they don't care, by the way, about your fucking skill set.
No.
They don't care.
Nope, only you do.
Yeah.
And this is where the whole conversation of like imposter syndrome, right? As long as you're only ever teaching down the line, you're sweet. It's like you said, like what's your client out of 10? What are you and what's your client? As long as you're teaching down the line, imposter syndrome shouldn't exist because you're not fucking pretending. You're only going to have imposter syndrome if you're trying to teach up, if you're trying to pretend you know more than you do.
Yeah, it can be imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
It like you want to get to higher levels in your business, yeah,
Yeah, of course, higher.
but you're not there.
Yep.
So right now, are you an imposter?
Because right now I won't teach. I will not take on a client that earns more than 5 mil
Okay.
because I haven't done it.
Right. Okay. So that's integrity, right? And your values. But in many ways, you are an imposter on the journey to getting where you want to get to because you're not there yet,
Yeah, of course.
right? I just think like we're all imposters in some
That's
ways.
a good way to look at it.
Because we're not there. But does that mean that we can't be the person? Because as you know, right now, if you're focused on doing the things, if you're focused on tracking those metrics and you just focus on process, right, then and you're being the person right now that's going to get to where you want to get to regardless, then you get there and you understand, yes, we're all imposters, but at the end of the day, you're doing the things and you're moving in the right direction. But when you're an imposter, it all feels wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I
when
think
you're
if-
stuck in fear, that's when you're not doing things. That's not when you're stuck in not doing process or you're thinking about your expectation and outcomes. Right? So, like imposter syndrome, it's a thing, fucking own it.
Yeah.
And be like, that's cool, but it's just accepting I'm at where I'm at right now. I think that's a really nice thing to ground yourself
Yeah,
in.
it's a good sentiment. It's good. I think it gives perspective.
Yeah.
Like if you can only be what you are now, then so be it.
You're at where you're at right now, but like if you want to play, like right now, everything I imagine that you're doing is a foundation. And people go, fuck, he's playing a big game.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually just the foundation for a whole lot bigger shit.
Oh, of course.
Right? Like we have an aspiration from a cash flow point of view, but we know from a vision point of view, like our minimum is $1 million a month is where we want to be.
Yep.
Right? So we take the actions now. Now, right now, it's a fucking grind. And at 40 years of age, like people just don't understand what it fucking takes. And I think that just online, we're just sold a whole heap of horse shit.
Yep.
That is easy. It's why I went out on my own in my own business, and I was telling you offline, because I think just people get sold it'll be easy and you can work minimal hours and, you know, it's fucking easy to turn this thing on.
Work-life balance, I'm very fucking opinionated on this. Work-life balance doesn't exist until you find it, right? Until you find that point of like, oh, I'm happy to now work less to then achieve balance. Because like, if you're in this position of like, if you use the analogy of a seesaw, right? To find that perfect equilibrium is where it's no longer a balancing act at all. It's actually just synergy. They both just work together, right? And to have that, to get that, you have to hyper leverage one thing first. And then it's like the priority sets in. Yeah. And then you can change.
Well, if we simplify life, you've got, you know, your health, you've got relationships, you've got business and kind of wealth creation.
Finance, yeah.
Right? Now, one might be more important. So it's like, what arteries cut?
Yeah.
What's the thing that we want to like double down on? I think one thing is we've got a lot of us that are driven have got crazy expectation.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the schema therapy stuff for me is it's called unrelenting standards. It's the thing I've had to work on unfucking.
Yeah.
But it keeps coming back over and over and over again, right? The thing is, one thing to accept is if I want to go like hard in business, like this month I might be doing a sprint, right? Because we're building out a membership site. We did that, say, 3 months ago.
Yep.
But you know when you're on a high, when you're building out new shit and you're fucking excited and you're just getting stuck in. And we were like that for like 8 weeks. And my mentor was saying, guys, just ride the wave.
Yep.
Like ride the wave. And we were flying. And usually we run my whole model of my life, like 3 weeks on, 1 week off, and a deload, just like program design.
Yep.
I run my coaching like that. I tell guys we're not doing coaching calls on our 4th week. You're going to focus on implementing something, or step out of your life, go and have 2 days off and fucking chill, because what are we working for?
Yeah.
Right? But you can ride that wave and go harder in business, but you got to understand, like, you know, let's just say we want to train fucking 6 days a week. Well, I just have it's been challenging, but learning like, all right, what's my minimal effective dose?
Yep.
Right? So it might be if I hit 3 sessions this week, that was a fucking win.
Yeah.
That's balance.
Yep.
But it's understanding that you're just going to prioritize certain things at certain times.
Yeah, but you don't just come into that. You've found that over years. You've found that over a lot of fuck ups too.
100%.
Right? And this is where I feel like a lot of people coming into their first, I don't know, they've hit their first target of business. They've hit their first 6 figures or their first 250K a year, whatever it might be. And it's like they think that shit's just going to happen. Yeah. And it's like it doesn't fucking work like that. Balance is not just achieved, it is found. You have to get there. There's a fucking journey.
Well, you said something earlier which is interesting, right? This maybe comes back to metrics, but it comes you still got such a bodybuilder mentality. I love it when I hear you speaking. But you know, for these guys, I imagine, what are key metrics that you track? Because you have metrics and you have review process by the sound of it, right? Which is so important. PTs don't review.
Nope.
So what are the key metrics that you would track from in business, for example?
We do cash flow is one. So look, a lot of people want to talk about revenue, but are you cash flow positive? All right. So I'm going to look at profits. It's going to be the one big thing. I think especially like in the fitness industry, like, you know, in running business in general, like we all know there's no rules to the game. Play it however the fuck you want. But unfortunately, when you've got no rules, there's also no guidelines on what you should be aiming for. And most people, let's say you've got a high profit business. You've got like a solopreneur that's killing it and they're making an 80% profit margin because they're paying no one else, right? Okay, cool. If you have 80% just sitting there, you'd be stupid not to dump a bunch of it into marketing because you can now grow at will, right? So I set a nominal target of a 35% profit margin. So that's our first point of like our first target point. We'll also look at time auditing. That's one of the big ones. Like, how much time do you actually work? Because so many people are like, oh, I charge $150 a week for my online coaching. Like, okay, cool. How shitty are your systems? Because how many hours are you actually working? Oh, your hourly rate actually sucks. So I don't care what you charge per week. How much do you do? So time audit, then we systemize appropriately. So like, where are the holes? What can we like save you time in? What can we outsource, etc.
Yep.
They're probably the two main ones, to be honest, to start with, is just like cash flow, profit, and time audit.
Yep.
I think that's a very basic framework to start.
Mm.
And then down the line, we'll look at like attrition rate, acquisition, churn rates, and so on. So if we can figure out like how to compound that LTV from a client through referral strategies alone, you can either, I'm very big on referral strategies that are actually repeatable. So many people just like, I'm taking on new clients, right? And they just shoot out that message. But it's, if you do that every month, you start to become desperate. Clients will read through it. So building repeatable, strategized referral processes. So whether it be like leveraging like status and going, okay, cool. The people that refer the most amount each month get some, special hat, some special drink bottle, some sort of reward. And then you create FOMO in the company where like those people are now posting in their VIP hat or their VIP hoodie. It's like, I want one of them. Oh, you can't get one unless you refer.
Yep.
Okay. Now that's repeatable. So like creating repeatable systems is probably like the fourth leverage point. It's like, we just first check profits and we check time auditing. And then we'll just go from pretty much like, okay, well, how can we create leverage? Let's just compound that LTV as much as we can.
Yep. I love that.
Yeah. I think that's like having some sort of framework for businesses, for fitness business especially, because so many people are just shooting from the hip. That's where like, they're just like, they're always behind. They're seeing their favorite influencer do this thing. They just try and copy it. It's like, too late, bro. Like, they've got 700,000 followers. They can do that.
And that strategy that they use doesn't actually work for where you're at or what you're doing. It's like, it comes back to the same thing. Like, there's nothing more important than you knowing. And this is why I say, like, outside of everything you said, I agree. And I'm massive on time audits because it comes down, like, business will just come down to simply two things. How do you want to make money? And how do you want to spend your time or invest your time? Right? For me, I look at time in business as there's like three levels. There's what drives growth. And if you can build the skill of understanding marketing, right? If you can understand content and offers, right? Keep it really fucking simple. And then obviously that creates conversations. So I track that. If you're doing organic, if you're not posting 2 to 4 times a day, and that overwhelmed the fuck out of me when I first heard that. So
we were pushing it 28 times a day.
Yeah. I mean, amazing.
28 on one platform. That's the highest we've gone.
I love that.
Yeah.
And for people like going, oh my God, right? Like, yeah, for sure. Like that can be overwhelming, right? So a lot of what we do is really like, when I heard that from my mentor, he first thing he said to me was, hey, Mark, like if you're reestablishing yourself, dude, like I'm not asking you to jump down an African lithium mine. I'm asking you to post twice a day.
Yep.
Right?
Not that fucking hard, man.
I was like, yeah, okay, well, fair point. Like, I've got time.
Yeah.
I'll fucking do it, right?
Yeah.
And the next thing we sat was, okay, but how can we create a framework so we make it as easy as possible? And then for me, it was like, all right, well, how do I time block my day? Fucking cables, man. I'm fighting with this cable the whole time. How do we time block our time?
Yeah.
And do this in chunks. So I might create my content twice a week.
Yep.
Like an hour block, and then I'll obviously get that edited up. Now I just get VAs for $9 an hour.
Yep.
Go do that shit because I have no interest.
Yep.
And then obviously post that out next week. That's the biggest needle mover. So I track content. I then I track what offers go out, and then I track conversations. In the DMs, and obviously there's follow-ups, and I teach people pipeline. Because if you understand sales, you understand pipeline.
Absolutely.
So where does your energy need to go? Well, who's booked in closest to a sale versus who's kind of in an active convo, and then follow-ups. And by the way, I get my VAs to do most of it. Yeah. Now it's almost pretty much scripted, right? So you can get to that point. Right? But if you track all that shit, and then obviously then you know close rates, well, and this is the thing, I think it's just more an energy, right? And I know you know this. But for the people out there, right? Hit it. If you focus on that, then when you get a client who's not showing up and they're fucking, like you say, not doing the things, I don't want to take people's money.
Yeah, I agree.
So just like coaching, if you're not showing up, I'll go, dude, did you actually want this? Because you're not showing up. In fact, if you're not responding to my voice message in a week, dude, I'm having a chat with you. Yep. Like there's something going on in you. And I genuinely will care if there's something going on, cool. But otherwise, it's attraction, right? So if you have that energy, you never need anything. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing about learning the skill.
And that's the thing. Money goes to those who need it least.
Yeah.
If you look around, if you can actually have a good energy around the service and the care factor and know exactly, not just teaching from a position of theory. And that's where I feel like there's a lot of charlatans in the mentoring industry. Is like, I'm just going to teach from a position of theory. It's like, the PT managers at most gyms are just failed personal trainers. Like no one's taking a $62,000 salary to teach personal trainers how to do the job if you're a fucking successful PT. It's just never going to happen.
You seen my post on that stuff?
No, I haven't.
I just straight out say that.
Yeah.
Like, if you're learning your business model from a PTM,
Yeah.
who doesn't have a business,
Who've specifically stopped doing business to take security.
Yeah.
Like to take, and not even all that much security, like a 62K salary.
Yeah. So with fitness directors, look, I said, these guys on the gym floor, and I think it just comes back to, be careful who you learn from.
Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously, mate, do your research for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, being on a gym floor, I think the thing is, the biggest thing that stops these guys is realizing that the same stuff that we're teaching online applies directly to your in-person.
Absolutely.
You've just got to understand, and if you fucking get this, I say this a million times over on my posts, your value is not in your fucking training sessions.
It's not in your time.
In the gym.
Thank you.
It's not. Just focus on fucking coaching and understand that your model is coaching. If you can do that, then people get it. And then, by the way, do that in your content.
Yeah.
Yeah, point that in your content. So the best analogy I would ever give about marketing is like golf. And you know I love golf.
Yes.
Right? People think marketing is putting out offers. Right? And it's not the shitty shit you see where it's like, I'm looking for 5 people that want fat loss and just fucking generic shit.
No.
Right? That is, offers are speaking to people on the green that you're going to putt the ball in, and that's 3% of the population at best that are following your shit. Right? What about the other 97%? Everything about what makes a conversation good is pre-selling. Well, if the furthest away from the hole is you first realizing someone's got a problem, that's like taking the driver out in a par 5.
Yep.
Right. Then we get further down the road. We're talking about in terms of content, guys, if you want to get better at it, it's about your philosophy. It's about what you're about.
Yep.
Right.
It's about solution.
Yeah. It's about, opinions, beliefs, myths, and you see a lot of what gets a lot of traction. So if you want to get better at it, look and see what people are doing. Get on your social media only for the point of fucking research and look at what's getting traction. And then after that, it's about like, what's the current plan you're doing versus the new plan of what you're doing, right? And highlighting where people are kind of doing things wrong. And starting to show people what it looks like to actually do it right. Because if you can start to actually add value through content and pre-sell, they just go, I fucking love this guy's stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And then if you even want to fill your business in the gym, the thing is what you got to understand is the world is connected through online and you can leverage yourself. Yes, you can do the exact same stuff. You can put it out to the email database of the gym. You can do all of that. But if you just saw your value and you understood and got your marketing right and saw it outside of the fucking training.
Yep. And just start to feed the top of your funnel. Like, so many people have, like, this is where they're hyper fixated on speaking to their market that they already train, whereas they should be focusing on the people that are,
which is random.
Yeah. Like the top of funnel, right? It's like feed the top of funnel so you get more people into that and then start to putt them down that green the closer you get to that sale. It makes so much fucking sense. But where people fuck it up and tie so much time to their value, or so much value to their time rather, is their pricing and their positioning. Is they're charging out $80 for a one-on-one session, and now the average online fee is, based on auditing that I've done, is like a $95 per week, right?
Okay.
$95 per week on average for online coaches that are within 2 years of their of infancy. They've just started, right? All the way up to like high end 180 a week, right?
Yeah, even up to 250 quite comfortably.
Oh, I'm talking for 2 years into PTing,
Yep,
two years into coaching, right?
Yep.
So if the average is at 95, but there's people still charging $80 for a session, how do you then turn around to these clients and go, hey, I want you to go online and pay me more and get less of me? The psychology is fucked. You need to have your pricing position to actually first make sense so you can make that transition. Your in-person time needs to be, in my opinion, cheaper so that you can actually then hyper leverage all of my value is out of the gym. All of my value, like I still think both should be expensive, but if you're going to position it well, like cool, all my value is out here. You just get my time here, but all of the conversations about your food, your training, your progress, your this, you don't get any of it unless you pay this other premium cost.
Yeah. The in-person part, I would always look, I'm sure we're very similar in philosophy. This is the thing about pricing and packaging. Mate, I could sit here for 4 hours and talk with you, honestly. Because I think it's valuable for you guys, but you're like, I've always said, like, and it comes down to time and money. Right, get clear on what you want your lifestyle to look like.
Yeah, okay.
How many hours you actually want to work. When you look at it and set goals, stop fucking setting goals from where you're at. That's not inspiration. That's just where you're at.
Yeah.
Right. And
comfort.
Like you've got big goals, so we've got to stretch. But accordingly, if you're setting your prices, and this is in person or anything, right? Understand your hourly rate, right? Which comes down to what you want to make in a week once you've understood your lifestyle. And let's just say it's my basic needs need to be covered first, and then it's lifestyle.
Yes.
Right. And if I want to, do you want to buy a house? Would you like to buy a house?
Yeah, I want to buy.
How much does it cost to buy a house out here in Altona that's decent on the beach? No, okay, it's relative. Right, 2 mil.
Yeah.
Now, you run your own business, right? You know I'm a financial planner and a mortgage broker.
Yep.
Right, so minimum you need 20% because you're going to get a low doc loan.
Yep.
So you need 400K. Yeah? So if you need 400K, when do you want to buy the house?
Next year.
So you need to save 400K. You need to be saving a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
Right, per week. Do you get it?
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense given you're making $3,000 right now?
More, way more.
Right, I'm just saying, do you know what I mean? Like I'm saying relative to a PT.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like not gonna happen, kid. No way.
So it's like, then realistically, okay, how long is it going to take? And by the way, yes, we might be able to use your mum and dad's house and do other things and whatever and not pay so much. But we then break down that goal and go, okay, now it makes sense that yes, you're making 2.5, but you want to be making 6.
Yes.
Okay, how many hours you want to work? What's the model? Either you've got in person. Do you still love in person? How much would you like to do in person? Maybe only 10 hours. Okay. How much do you want to make from in person and how much do you want to make online? Let's set our prices accordingly.
There's your objective data.
Bang.
Yeah.
And now we know it makes sense. Stop going, but it's just like, Reese is charging
I just charge what my competitor charges. I'll just undercut them by a little bit.
But it makes no sense.
I agree.
Just make sense of things and think strategically.
Yep.
And be a fucking business person. That's what it takes. And this is why I've always been passionate about it. And this is why I speak like this, because our industry is amateur.
Yeah.
It's fucking amateur. And
Dude.
you can play, and this is why the top 1% are the top 1% for a reason.
Dude, I'm going to shout out one of my clients, Michael. Michael Hallam, he works out in Spartans. He's a fucking great PT. And he's like, first week in with mentoring with me, he said, man, my only goal is I want to buy my dream house. I'm like, cool, how much is your dream house? I'm like, all right, 1.3. I was like, okay, cool. Where is it? He's like, out in the sticks. It's huge though. This place, he was like, he wants big land. He's like, that's my dream home, and I want to be able to have a gym in my home, and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, cool.
There's a vision.
1.3, sweet. That's very achievable. What are you currently charging? Is that exact conversation that you had? Like, okay, cool. Well, you need to charge 20% more if you want to do it in the next 18 months. And he was sitting there like, oh yeah, I want to put my price up by like $10. I was like, bro, you need to charge 20% more minimum if you want to do it in the next 18 months, provided you have no other losses and no one else leaves. So let's look at your last 12 months of loss. What was your attrition rate? 30%. So you need to charge 50% more because you're going to have probably 30% leave still. And I was like, fuck. I was like, okay, cool. So you seem not very confident about that. Like at the time, I think he was charging like $100 a session. You need to charge 50% more, 150. He was scared of that. Cool. How do we make your session more valuable, not determined by your time? Build a perfect product now. Like, how do we get $50 more worth of value, comfortable, without giving them more time? Hybrid model, get them online as well, track data offline, blah, blah, blah. Build a community, leverage that community, create status.
Bang.
Happy.
Yep.
Fuck, man.
Did he make it happen?
We're about 6 months in and he will make it happen.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
You gotta see your vision. Right? Like you gotta see your vision.
Yep.
Because I still love my favorite book. It's like the original in psychology, Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics. Do you know the book?
I haven't read it. I do know of it. I haven't read it though.
Dude, get the book, buy the audio. It's old school, right? He was a plastic surgeon.
Yep.
He would change people's faces, but they still felt like an ugly fuck.
Funny.
So then you see, the people that go and, they get the bolt-ons, they get the face done, and they just, it's an obsession they continue because it's never enough because they haven't changed their idea of self. But the thing is around goals, if you can see it, you see where you want to go and you can see the fucking house and how you want to run the business and where you want to be in a year or 3 years' time, like you fixate on it and you think about it, right? And this is why athletes have always fucking visualized the end point and it's got to feel right, right? And when you can see it and then the next step is you got to commit.
Yeah.
You got to 100% commit to it. And like this guy, I say this to my guys all the time, you're expensive.
Good.
Like, own it. And that fucking triggers them because they don't believe in themselves. Like, you're expensive. I am expensive. I am $150 a week. I'm $150 a week. Until the point it's so natural. Yeah. Because when you sit down and you close someone and you're like, look, it's $150 a week, you're super chill because
your tonality says it all. Yeah.
Yeah. Like but this is our next steps. This is what we charge.
Yeah. And like I said before, like money goes to those who need it least. If your tonality is correct, that you are like, cool, you can take it or leave it. You're not pressuring them. Like, yeah, it's 400 a week.
Yeah. And it's on the table if you're going to invest in yourself.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, fully agree.
But vision, commit, have fucking courage.
Yeah.
Yeah, which act from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Then be fucking consistent in doing the things.
Yeah.
And if you get consistent, you'll actually get good at marketing.
Surprisingly.
Right? And then you'll feel fucking confident in your message.
Yeah.
And in a year's time, you won't know yourself.
And it took me to go to Dubai to have a reset of that, right? Like our forward projections, like I was like, cool, this financial year we want to hit 6.2. And I'm like, yeah, like it all seems pretty doable. I go over to Dubai and there's people walking around with like $3 million watches on their wrist at the gym. I'm like, probably need to readjust. I'm not scared by this $6.2 million business, but what about a 12? What about a 15? And now it's like, I've only been back 24 hours, but the plans that are coming, like going up on the whiteboard already, are just outrageously different when I've readjusted that goal setting process and just what's actually far away and what feels scary.
Yep.
Fucking cool. It's a good framework to
have. Dude, it's awesome. Like Grant Cardone, just 10x your thinking, right? And you play a much bigger game.
Yeah, I think everyone can.
Yeah.
It's a good take home point, man. I think that's, we'll leave it there, bro. I think we could talk on this for hours. I have to get you back for a fucking round 2, 3 or 4. Where can people find you, and what have you got going on in your world? How can they get involved?
Honestly, guys, probably Instagram's my thing. Mark Luxon on Instagram. Follow Coaches Collective. Dude, we'll be in the industry a long time, so look forward to connecting with you guys. And mate, thoroughly enjoyed this as well. So thank you for
very welcome
for everything. Very
welcome, man. We'll chuck all the links below in the show notes to the things. Follow, like, subscribe, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, guys.